fawning is people pleasing. That's not a natural thing. And yet all of us do it on some level. I need to know who is ready. Drop a yes in your gut or a feral fox in the comments as soon as this premieres, because today, yes, today, I am addressing the thing that all of you have been reaching out to me about. You're just so excited. I'm so excited. Who is ready to 10x their ability to stop people pleasing? Are you? Because I was sick and tired of people pleasing. I was sick of it. I was sick of not feeling like I could set boundaries, not feeling like I could say no. I was sick of it. Is that how you're feeling right now? Listen, I need some fire in the comments today, because today we're talking about the fox, and the fox is the fawner of all of the survival instincts. But the fox is sneaky, because the fox is not entirely the natural survival instincts, right? And I've had so many of you reach out to me and say, Charlie, when are you going to talk about people pleasing? Again, when are you going to talk about fawning? I'm a fox. I took the quiz. I know I'm a fox. When are we going to talk about this ridiculous thing that so many of us do? And it's the most frustrating because it's not a natural human response. Fight makes sense, right? You're going to save your life. Your brain wants to save you. Flight, you're going to run off. Your brain has decided you can get away in time. Freeze even is don't move, maybe the threat will walk by. But fawning is people pleasing. That's not a natural thing. And yet all of us do it on some level. I mean, listen, seriously, fire in the comments. Everybody does this. Everybody struggles with it. And it's time to be able to talk about it out in the open. So are you ready? Let's go.
I'm Dr. Charlie Hornis, highly anxious people pleaser turned master certified professional life coach. Learning to manage my brain was so life-changing for me that I got certified so that I could teach these incredible evidence-based practices to you. Are you ready for massive change? Let's go.
Hey friend, welcome to the Art of Managing Your Brain. I'm Dr. Charlie Hornis. I am a board certified clinical spiritual counseling provider. I am also a master certified thought work strategist. And I'm just really excited to talk to you today in our part 2 of the fox fawn survival instinct. And if you do not yet know your survival instinct, are you a fox, a deer, a lion, or an owl? Then you need to take my quiz at charliehorniscoaching.com/quiz. You are going to get a preview of the new cinematic graphic art that I'm creating in some of my new products. And you're going to get one cheat sheet with just some really great actionable steps on it, nothing too overwhelming. And you'll also get a personalized video made from me just to you and your specific archetype, and you'll get those free once you take that quiz. Plus, there will be a special offer right in there for you, but you have to take the quiz to discover what that is. So charliehorniscoaching.com/quiz. All right, who's excited? Today is the day. I need a yes in the comments when this premieres, because this is Fox Day. This is feral fawning day. This is people pleasing. And so many of you have reached out and said, Charlie, when are you going to talk again about people pleasing? When are we going to, get into this? And I get the DMs and I'm all for it. I'm here. Why? Because I was a huge people pleaser. Again, I'm a dominant owl, but boy, did I have a feral fox. Let me tell you. I mean, until you get the brain stuff, until you understand why we're doing what we're doing, why we need to get the approval of other people, what that's all about, it's beyond frustrating. It's beyond frustrating. And you ready? This is why so many have reached out, because people pleasing is truly one of the most frustrating things that we as humans do. It is. Why? Because it's not natural. It's not a necessarily natural instinct, just like, fight, flight, and freeze are, because those are things that protect you out in the wild, right? We see that in animals. We see fight, we see flight, we see freeze, like, chameleon who doesn't want you to see them. But I don't see monkeys people pleasing lions, do you? I don't see that out there. When these social connections feel conditional, that's when your fox starts hustling for your worth. And you don't need to do that anymore because these things are conditional. Your fox is never wrong when it comes to the threat level as far as, is it existing? Yes. Is it something you really, really should be worried about? That's a conversation with your thinking brain, not with your fox. But when the connections feel conditional, which they are, your fox first and foremost makes you hustle for worth. Your fox doesn't do this because you lack confidence or self-esteem or, all the fill in the blank of all the ways you beat yourself up. But that's not what's happening. She's doing it because a system taught her certain things in a dysregulated, dysfunctional, convoluted system of what we're living in now, that you speaking clearly and having an opinion is rude because somebody along the way in your life decided with the words in their brain without thinking them through to tell you that you speaking your mind was rude, no more nice girl. And so now you have to be like, the complicit in silence nice girl because Judy thought you were rude. It's like with the little girls that we tell her, they're bossy. Well, I'm probably going to be a CEO though if you encourage them instead of, tamp them down all the time. This is that system at play. Somewhere along the way, converging forces in your system of your story told you your clarity, your words, your directness was rude, was not okay. That you just having a boundary, a no, was aggressive, and that you shouldn't be so aggressive. And this just kind of wore you down over time. It weathered your power. It weathered that frolicky, awesome fox within you that now is just like totally on guard, catastrophic thinking, watching all the time for the next jerk who's going to come along and tell you that you're rude. A system is not going to reward your fox for speaking up. It's going to reward your fox for staying soft and meek and quiet and going along to getting along. Why? Because then no one gets held accountable for bad behavior. People love to make it your fault so that you get distracted by your emotional life. And they get to do whatever they want because you're not rewarded when you rock the boat. You're not rewarded for emotionally managing everybody else's sense of comfort without even seemingly caring about your own because you are in so much dysfunction and discomfort that your fox is like going bananas, right? So she's over functioning. She's over accommodating. And what is this costing? This is costing you both your sense of unified self, the positiveness of your instincts and of your thinking brain and who you are and your disposition and your gifts and your talent. It's all being silenced by other people who can't manage their brains. And you're giving them all your power. Think that through. Nothing else around you has to change. Nothing. Because you can't change other people anyway. There's no point trying. And people that you're pleasing are never ultimately going to be pleased with you. Never. There's just going to be one more goalpost moved. There's going to be one more thing you can't get right. There's just going to be one more thing, one more thing, one more thing. And what do they get to do? Not ever be held accountable. So today we're teaching one micro shift, an interrupting of the internal translation. Let's talk through what that is. Interrupting the internal translation. So it's a 3-step fawn disruption protocol that you can use right now. Step 1, name the pattern in real time. Say to yourself in your head or out loud, my brain, my fox, my survival instinct thinks I'm safer if I vanish into thin air right now. This simple sentence interrupts the reflex with awareness. Oh, there goes my fox again. Look at her go. She sees danger everywhere. So you've got to interrupt that because this is just a reflex. Step 2, locate what is the real threat. Ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I say the thing, if I do the thing? What's at stake? Ask yourself, what is at stake for me right now? Is it rejection? Is it embarrassment? Is it being labeled too difficult? You're worried about all of these different labels, right? And when we name this, we can see often it's an imagined threat. And not to say you're making stuff up. You are identifying to your fox. It's not life or death. And then when you do that, you defang it immediately because you've engaged your thinking brain and you've processed it and you've said, is this really a threat? Am I really in danger? What is at stake? Can that person really do something to me? And do I have control over that anyway? And are they going to do it anyway? You know, people that are being ugly, you're not going to convince to not be ugly by being nice to them. You see how that works? It makes no sense. That's why you struggle with this, because it's entirely, utterly illogical. And I'm spending time, especially on this one, because I know so many of us relate to this. It's such a huge thing. Step 3, choose your truth over translating to everybody else's comfort. Say one thing without worrying how it comes out. Why do we care anyway? Because if somebody is that judgmental, if they're that judgmental, that is the first gigantic red flag that they're an emotional child and that they believe the words their brain yells at them all day long, to the point where they're going to open up their mouth and be utterly unkind to you, often for no good reason. And I probably say this every week, even if there is a good reason, like you screwed up something, it doesn't deserve dysfunctional and emotionally dysregulated, disproportionate responses to you. You're allowed to make mistakes. As long as you learn from them, you put the time in and you do better, right? But you're still going to mess up. You need to start to identify these people not as threats, but as absolute and total emotional children, because that is what they are. And if I had known that with the dude that would come in and scream at me in my office to the point where I found myself at my bottom, and this was early in my career, and it never got better, screaming at me over a misprint in the newsletter, to the point of this happening so much. And I kept trying to please and get it right Because I just kept thinking, if there's a problem, I solve the problem. I'm not an idiot. You want to knock somebody over into the R of my storm metaphor, the rupture, falling over into that threshold transgression of cognitive dissonance. How is it possible I can't get anything right? To the point where they're so angry that I'm hiding under my desk having what I thought was a panic attack because I was done. I couldn't regulate my emotions anymore. And then after the system did that to me and I had no idea what was happening, I couldn't even help myself, right? There was this double violence of being told I just couldn't hack it. And that's not okay. And the more you try to please people that are doing this kind of crap, the faster you're drifting down that river from upstream to downstream into estuary, face first into Cat 5 level hurricane event of burnout. When you feel the pressure and the tug of war of having to please another person because you're not receiving approval for whatever reason, that's actually the red flag warning the hurricane is brewing, and it's got its eye trained directly on you. And you're not going to people please a hurricane, are you? No, you have no control over things outside of you. But once you understand what's happening, you have to have the how, the what, the why. What is it? Now you know. Now you just have to figure out, do that work and do that and, put that skin in the game, invest, learn how to manage your brain, which takes work, teaching. You need someone who's been there, done that. One more thing. Do not pad what you say. You can start practicing this immediately. Don't say, I was just wondering. Don't say, oh, no big deal if it's not. It's okay. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. No, I want you to say your truth. No fluff and no pad. Say the sentence. Do it this week. That's your first assignment. It might actually sound like, actually, that deadline doesn't work for me. Maybe it sounds like I have to disagree with that. Let it hang there. Trust me, they're more uncomfortable than you are. Maybe it sounds like that just doesn't feel right. That just doesn't sit right with me. Done. Don't say anything else. And it's going to feel terrible. You know what's great? It's not so bad when you expect it to feel terrible. Suddenly it doesn't feel so terrible. You go, oh, that's what Charlie was talking about. Yeah, that sucks. But wait, let me kickstart my brain. Instead of worrying about how terrible I feel, let me watch how uncomfortable they are because they're emotional children. And then you can think to yourself, you and your fox can have a good laugh and say, what are they going to open up their mouth and say next? And think it's okay to say. I can't wait to see this one. It becomes a totally different situation. And you've defanged it. And you've done nothing. You haven't pleased anybody. You haven't done anything right. You haven't done the right mindset, and you haven't lived into the right framework. You've just identified your owl, your lion, your deer, your fox. You've stopped making it your enemy. You've realized they're there to protect you. They're your attack dog when you need them, and your snuggle bunny when you need them, and your best friend who will do anything to save your life. And you thank them for the work that they're doing, and you ask them to keep doing it. And you see that you now have a superpower because you see people and dysfunction and dysregulation coming a mile away, especially foxes, a mile away, and you can sidestep it. Just sidestep it. You see it. They're not going to be pleased. The minute you feel uncomfortable, that's your clue, not to please them, but to get the heck away from them and identify that they're emotional children. And honestly, that should start to bring you some pretty significant laughs when you start to pay attention with your thinking brain about the words that come out of people's mouths that they think is okay. And we all do it. See, the thing you desperately want in your life ultimately becomes a byproduct of stuff that doesn't seem like it should give you those results. Like me telling you to snuggle your fox. Yeah, that's going to make you actually laugh at Bob and Larry when they pull their shenanigans in the hallway. You've stopped giving them all of your agency, all of your power, because you're not going to let people that are emotionally dysregulated and entirely emotional children to determine whether or not you're going to have a good day. Because you know that's what you're doing, right? You're saying that you, my brilliant fox, are going to let Bob from accounting and Larry in logistics determine what kind of day you're going to have. You're just giving them the power. And they're the ones who let the most ridiculous stuff come out of their mouths. Are those people that you want to trust with how your day is going to go? Are those people you want babysitting your fox? Then stop giving them that kind of power over you. And the only way to do that is by understanding the neurobiology behind it. That understanding that the more unkind and more ugly somebody can be is in direct proportion to the level of their emotional immaturity. And so the worse you feel, the more of an emotional child you're dealing with. And instead of going into the feeling, because it's hard not to, because it's visceral and physiological and takes over everything, right? When you get amygdala hijacked, it sucks. But I'm telling you, it sucks. And I'm telling you what it is. And so when that happens, when you feel it, that, cascade of neurotransmitters, you can start to identify it and go, oh, that's the thing Charlie was talking about. Wait, I feel awful because I'm supposed to, because Foxy here has identified a threat and I'm not safe. Now, it's 2025 and no one's going to take me out in the office because, Barb over there in HR is going to have a problem with that one, right? She always has a problem with that one. So that's not going to happen. But I'm still not safe. So let me identify what the threat is. Then what do? We do our 3 steps. Name it in real time. My fox has identified a threat. What's the threat? Interrupt the reflex with awareness. Now, with awareness comes significant failure and discomfort. That's part of it before you get to the place of comfort and building evidence that you can do it and that you will live. Because once you teach your brain you're going to survive it, yeah, it's all good. And then step 2, you locate the real threat. Where's the threat? Then ask yourself, what is it that I'm afraid will happen if I say what I really think? If I do what I really think? If I do the thing, say the thing, don't say the thing, don't do the thing, don't go to the thing. Don't bring the damn cookies because you have a life and kids and whatever. and don't have time every time. Sandy is going to use the fact that your cookies actually are pretty darn amazing as the excuse to why none of them should have to do the work. Now, what are you afraid is really going to happen? Rejection, embarrassment, difficult, all the stuff that I was saying, right? And then you need to choose one truth over translating yourself for someone else's comfort. We're spending 2 episodes on our fox because we've really just had such a huge outpouring of people interested in learning more about what it is and why they're people pleasing all the time. And I get it. It really sucks. And so now we're going to go into some teaching about what it is and how to deal with it. So I've got 3 steps for you. These are just, some micro teaching, give you some idea of, what we teach in the instant access digital courses and the more high ticket private coaching. That's an application only, but that can be found on my website. So we're learning about this micro teaching, the bigger lessons, and get some immediate payoff right now, because I need you to be able to have some achievable outcomes. And so the micro shift that we're learning is interrupting this internal translation, right? Because as we really dove into last week, and I really wanted to spend time on this because I need you to understand that when there's a threat detected, and it's not a life-threatening threat, it's social issues that we deal with now, interpersonal problems, dealing with other people, difficult situations, all of the above. And when we're doing this, what we're doing is we're translating what our fox is screaming at us that is a danger, even if it's not bodily harm, right? It doesn't equate to dead like it used to. We're translating that. We're excusing it. We're saying, why did I do that people pleasing again? Because your brain wanted to save you from a threat, instead of identifying that you have to interrupt the translation. Your survival mechanism is saying, you can't override this. This is going to keep you alive. So you just have to suck it up, right? And starts translating what you know to not be true into truth to make sense. So your insides match your outsides. This is the nail in the coffin to fox burnout, is because you're going to translate yourself downstream right into the face of Cat 5 burnout event, because you're not actually listening. You're not allowing your fawn response, your fox, to be right, that you're not in a safe place, because you're probably not. She can pick up on it so much faster than you can. That's why you react so quickly, because all 4 of these are superpowers once you understand what they are. And once you can welcome them in as a new puppy, train them, bathe them, feed them, discipline them, be good parents to them. But you're the human. You're the parent. You're the one with the prefrontal cortex. Your fox doesn't have a prefrontal cortex to think. It doesn't have an evolved brain. It has an amygdala, which is like this big and really ruins your day. Something that big ruins your day. So you have to interrupt this translation. You have to stop telling yourself that what you're feeling isn't right. You have to stop saying that you can't trust yourself. It doesn't mean that it's actually a giant threat, but what it does mean is that you are not safe as far as hanging out with your best friend. My owl can spot unsafe people coming a mile away now, and I see it. And it's a warning in my system. I have the whole storm thing, right? But I have a warning system too. It's warning, watch, it's at your doorstep, smash you in the face. I'm no longer that person. Never going to be. Never want to be. Because all I did was hand my power to other people, emotional children, and then said, hey, let me know. Am I going to have a good day today or a bad day? Do you want to decide for me? Yeah, go ahead. Here you go. That's what you're doing. You don't have to do that anymore. Any moment you can change it. If you stick with this work, if you can go from that unawareness to awareness, right? And then we go to the practicing flying the plane. You're a student in the aerial view concept. And then you're a co-pilot. And then eventually we switch and you're flying your own plane. And then eventually you don't need people like me because you're doing it automatically. It's just a byproduct of the work, even though right now it feels like that's the goal. It's not the goal, but it's the result. I look back at it now and I was like, what was that? Why? And there's reasons. We can get into that, but I don't care. I manage my brain and I'm very aware you do not know how to manage yours. The nastier, the meaner, the uglier you get, the more of an emotional child I am aware that you are. That's what managing your brain is starting to identify when that happens, how it feels, get comfortable understanding it. And instead of hating it and running away from it or yelling at it or people pleasing it or just freezing and ignoring it, we can say, there's the thing, right? My fox has come out of his foxhole and he sees danger. And then we take over. We thank him. Thank you so much. I'm good. No one's going to eat me right now, but I am surrounded by a whole bunch of emotional children. So let's just hang out and see what they got to say. What you got? That's what my aerial view is. You get up over a system that's coming at you, a bunch of converging forces, right? And instead of standing there and yelling your affirmations into the hurricane that doesn't give a shit, you get in the plane with me and we get up there and I teach you how to fly over it. Totally emotionally detached most of the time. So there's always turbulence in the metaphor. That's okay. That's normal. But you're going to fly solo and you don't need people like me after you learn that. The reason I'm spending a lot of time on the fox's survival instinct is because it is the evolved one that deals with much more nuanced human behavior. And that's why it sucks so bad. Microaggressions are subtle and they're often unintentional slights or digs, real, good shanks they get in there that aren't always even intentional. And they communicate a hostility, a dismissal, or some kind of bias, typically against you, especially towards somebody's identity, their intelligence, their presence. Often it's about things they can't change about themselves, like their skin color, their gender, the culture they were raised in, the religion they were raised in, the country of origin or ancestors of origin. If you cannot take off their complaint like a shirt because they don't like the color you wear, then it's probably a microaggression. Somebody making a comment about your nose. Can't take that off like a shirt, but they smiled when they did it. Microaggression. Bingo. Also, if you can't take it off like a shirt and it makes you feel bad, microaggression. So they're not overt, which means they're not like in your face, right? They're traps. They're sneaky. They're deniable. There's like plausible deniability. That's not what I meant by that. You're just interpreting. You're inferring. I didn't say that. Yeah, you did. And they don't have to believe you, right? You don't need somebody to co-sign what you heard, what you know to be true, what you know to be a microaggression. That was just that ugly thing they said, right? And you can't take it off like a shirt. Therefore, they shouldn't be talking about it. Then when you even attempt to set a boundary or say that's not okay or ouch or, whatever it is that you want to say, even and you want to be proud of yourself because you said the thing. And then they're like, that's not what I meant. That's why you make friends with your animal instinct, because she knows and you'll know too. You just have to learn how. Fortunately, that's what I teach. If you ever want to check out what we do have to go deeper into learning all of these things, a lot of that how to, just go to charliehornesscoaching.com/store, and any of our current offerings that are sort of out of our vault and available for instant online access, they will be there. And we always have new instant access on demand teaching courses, like little micro how-tos, step by step, because this stuff can be overwhelming at times. If you take it step by step, you'll be fine. We typically have our waitlist up at /masterclass/waitlist. So those two websites are where you can go and find the majority of what we have. We want to deliver this to you as fast as possible so that you can start living your best life as fast as possible. That's why this stuff is like instant access on demand. It pretty much takes you through step by step with some really great interactive workbooks. So if you're willing to do the work and make the investment in yourself and show up, there's all kinds of stuff up there for you to start learning. I encourage you to start with some courses right away. charliehornesscoaching.com/ story. So anyway, microaggressions. So they sound like you're so articulate for someone your age. You're intimidating, but in a good way. Wow, you're really driven. Do you even have a personal life? Or we need more women at the table, but not those kind of women. Comments like this, they feel like a slow exhale when you leave the room. Like it's a full body blow out of breath. They feel like a skipped eye contact in the meeting. They feel like a joke with a sting that lingers for a couple of days. Your idea is ignored, then repeated by somebody else and celebrated. This feels like being asked to smile, to soften your personality. I'll never forget. There was a woman minister down the street, down Broadway, outside the seminary in New York City. She was a straight shooter, and I really liked her. And I mentioned her to somebody at the school, one of the professors, and he said, "Oh yeah, she's got pointy elbows." And I was like, huh, I bet they don't say that about men. And she's probably been told to, soften her pointy elbows because she's like, you know. And I respected that. I thought it was very cool. And you're asked to stay more approachable. You need to be more approachable, right? See, you're fawning through them, and that's when you laugh it off. This is the translation. You know it's not okay. Your fox tells you it's not okay, but then you fawn through them anyway. That's when you laugh it off. You say thanks anyway, or you make a joke yourself just to keep things that are copacetic, right? Calm. But your nervous system isn't confused. Your fox isn't confused. It clocks that threat, even when your voice is smiling. So here are 3 additional protocol steps. How to exit this loop without going scorched earth. So again, it's not a mindset reset. This is not confidence building, boosting. This is not even about people pleasing. It really isn't. It's about your body trying to save your life, your fawn instinct, your fox is trying to save your life. But the problem is that now it's doing it on autopilot in rooms that aren't actually physically dangerous. So that's the counterintuitive piece of this. It thinks you're going to be dead, and you're not going to be dead, right? Now that's pretty extreme, but that's what the survival is about, is keeping you alive. That's why it kicks off in weird times, because it's confused. And people who don't deserve the kind of power that they have, determining if your brain thinks something's dangerous or not. And the longer you stay in this kind of mental loop that goes over and over and over again, the more your own needs feel like a threat. So here's what you do. Not someday. I want you to do it today, the minute you're listening to this. And yes, it is uncomfortable. Like I said, it can feel terrifying because you're doing something entirely new. But that's the point. That's how you rewire your brain. You do something different, because what's been working isn't working. And it's not. Okay, so we're going to track the trigger. We're going to start here, not with a journal, not with a planner, not with, mindset reset, whatever. We're going to start with your actual physical body, because that's where all the information is. So notice an urge before the action. Not the yes that you said. Notice the feeling, the panic you felt before you said it. What was that about? Just identify it. It's not a judgment. Notice it. That flicker of fear when the phone pings, that clench in your gut when someone says, "Can I pick your brain real quick?" Or "Can I offer some feedback?" That sudden need to explain why your boundary is totally reasonable. I promise. It is my boundary. It's totally reasonable. I promise. That's not overthinking. That's your threat detection system, your amygdala. It's lighting up like a damn Christmas tree when you're not in a safe space. It's saying danger. They may not like you. Danger. They might think that you're to this, to that. Danger. They might give you the cold shoulder. You might get embarrassed in this social contract of community. But you can catch that. You can track that, because that's your fox. And then you can interrupt that loop, right? We break the automation. We break it. Breathe, for example, not for calmness. It's for consciousness. Then say out loud. You have to put it out into the world, murmur it into a bathroom stall. This feels unsafe. It feels unsafe. Microaggressions and all of that kind of really dysfunctional stuff feels entirely unsafe and awful, but you're not actually in physical danger. And you don't necessarily have to be in mental danger, spiritual danger, emotional danger, psychological danger, verbal danger, if you can learn to manage your brain, because that's the protection. That is, that is what's getting you off the shore when the hurricane is barreling right at you. You're not in danger when your fox sort of, sticks her head out of the little fox den. And this one line, this feels unsafe, but I'm not in danger. I'm okay. And then you thank your fox. Thanks for looking out for me, bro. This is a neurological crowbar. This wedges you out of the limbic loop that's been dictating your behavior your whole life since you learned this. You're talking to your nervous system. That's what you're doing. And she speaks in sensation, repetition, and survival logic. She feels, basically. She's your empath. She feels it all. So interrupt the loop like you mean it, like you're flipping a breaker back on after everything went dark. And it's the same thing again, the micro assert. Now, earlier we talked about saying the sentence, right? This is when we start to say the stuff out loud, but you don't have to, go so far out there that you're miserable. You just, if you feel like you're over speaking, try to say one less sentence. And here's what rewiring looks like in real life. You leave a message to sit unanswered for an hour. You skip the emoji that softens your tone. Don't we love those emojis? I've kind of started to stop using them altogether, honestly. It's just not helpful for a woman, I don't think. You stop narrating your availability like you're trying to win most reasonable human of the year. Look, every time you don't over accommodate, you're restoring your own nervous system to home base. You're recalibrating. It's exactly what you're doing. You're not even trying to be difficult. You're just welcoming yourself home. And then there's the rewiring in stillness. And this is where most of my foxes are going to bolt, because stillness feels like weakness, because stillness means no shifting and morphing, no fixing, no managing other people's feelings for them instead of worrying about your own and, putting theirs before yours. This is where your power lives. Stillness is the moment that you let the room feel the discomfort, especially if it's because of something somebody else said. Most people have ears and hear, and they can identify stupid stuff. And you don't need to be embarrassed if somebody says something stupid out loud. This is where you don't additionally clarify your tone for the fragile ego in front of you. It's where you watch somebody entirely misinterpret you or what you said, and you let it happen. Just let it happen. Try it and see what happens. You let the misunderstanding live. You let the silence breathe. You let other people be uncomfortable for a change. You let someone else feel the storm for once that constantly feels like it's coming for you. Because, Fox, you're not responsible for their storms anymore. All you have to do is get in the plane. Look, this isn't about being rude. We're not all of a sudden becoming rude. It's literally just about you being who you are, being real. Now, there's lots of stuff we don't bring to professional environments about who we are and our real self, right? But within inside of you, you get to feel your own reality. The realness, it's going to cost you false peace, but you want it to cost you false peace because you want to get rid of false peace. The problem is that when you get rid of your false peace, you're going to feel more discomfort. But here's what it buys you. It buys you nervous system relief. Truth that you don't have to double check. An identity that doesn't change based on who's in the room. Stillness is your power source, not because it's loud, but because it's yours. So let's start bringing back the words, less words, more power. You can be kind without being available all the time. You can be generous without always having a revolving door of accessibility to you. You can turn your phone off at 8 or 6 if you want. You can do it at any time. You don't need permission. You can be loving without being accommodating. You can let the world learn to sit in their discomfort and let them say stupid things. And maybe eventually, if you just stand there and stare at them, and eventually you may even start laughing, they may start to figure out that they're saying stupid things and you don't even have to care. You've sat in your discomfort long enough. So let the system be confused. Let Bob from accounting not get the tone. Let Larry in logistics whisper. You're done editing yourself for survival because you're not in danger. This is not for you to soften. Stillness is your map out of the storm and into the aerial view. All right. And I do have some Q&A that I wanted to do on this, even if it's not your dominant. And again, go to charliehornesscoaching.com/quiz to figure out what your dominant survival archetype instinct is. And then one of these episodes is specifically for you. So here's our first question that we had. And if you want to go to charliehornesscoaching.com/ask, you can submit a question there. And as I'm able, I will do my best to get to them. I read every question that comes in, definitely. So these are real questions from people out there that are just like done with them. And you send them in. I read every single one of them. And if you're asking, that means somebody else is living this too. And remember, we all have one of the 4 archetypes. So at any time, there's a group of 5 of you anywhere in public. There's probably another one of you who feels similar. Just be aware that if you're asking it, other people are probably living it too. So here's what came in after last week's part 1 of the Fox Fawn duo series. And what you really need to hear if you're fawning and fried and just now realizing that being agreeable is what's really starting to burn you out. That's where it starts for foxes. What if I don't realize I'm fawning until later? Then you're in the majority, like the rest of us, because that's kind of what happens when your thinking brain isn't working because your survival mechanism is kicked on. You're not thinking, you're not coding. So you don't even necessarily know what you're doing. Delayed awareness is what it's called. Delayed awareness is a feature of the nervous system. It's not a flaw. Fawning is just instinctual. Like I said, it kicks in before our logical brain even catches up, even logs what's happening. So you're not allowed to beat yourself up for this. Instead, after the fact, jot down the moment, what happened. Try to remember words that describe how you felt in the moment, because that's important, because often we don't have words to describe the ways that we feel. What did your body feel like in the moment? And this isn't the fluffy whatever navel gazing, or this is like actual neuro rewiring in real time. That's what we're doing. And if you want to speed that up, if you want to train your nervous system to recognize micro threats before you respond and do it very quickly, then you need to learn how. I mean, you can try to do it by yourself, but you will do this so much faster than I did. You will do it so much more eloquently. You will do it so much more successfully. So this is some of what I'm going to be teaching in our brand new burnout equation masterclass. That would be charliehornesscoaching.com/store, where you can find what's available. How do I say no without sounding mean? I don't want to tell you how long it took me to learn that one. And this is one I still work on. I mean, this is maybe one of those for the rest of your life practices. But, first of all, no is not mean. That was the hardest thing I had to learn. Second, if somebody needs you to explain to respect your boundary, regardless of what it is, they never respected you in the first place. So say it with a warm tone. Don't surround it with padding and worry about what they think and no backstory. Just tell them the truth. Here's some options. I'm not available for that. I'm tied up. That's not going to work for me. That's not going to work for us. Thanks for asking. I can't commit right now. My favorite. That's just one too many cookies on my cookie platter. It's going to make them all fall off. But thanks for thinking about me. If that makes you anxious, I get it. That's a survival response right there. That's not a personality trait. What you just felt when I said those things and, whatever that reaction was, pay attention to that. That's what this is that we're talking about. Inside my storm system strategy that I teach in the full scope and sequence of my coaching and my offers, I show you exactly how to train your nervous system to withstand the discomfort of silence, of guilt, of other people's disappointment. That's what real authority is. Next, I don't want to disappoint people. How do I stop caring so much? Oof, you were in the double bind right there, right? Look, you don't stop caring. You don't stop caring what people think. Of course you don't. Who would want to stop caring about anything? You stop equating care with compliance. You stop equating caring what they think with your self-worth. You see, fawning tells you that care equals approval. Yes, welcome, belonging. Remember we talked last week about the social system and the belonging piece, how important that is to your brain. But real care is discerning. It's thoughtful. It's using your prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain. Ask yourself, is it aligned? Is it honest? Will I resent this later? If the answer is no, yes, you're not caring. You're giving in under obligation and pressure. We undo this in stages, but this is that level of converging forces, and pressure being the first one, those systemic forces of the S acronym. We undo it in stages, and that's what the aerial view means. And that's what that method is built for, teaching you to shift your identity without burning your life down. You don't have to. You just get up and see it from a different view. And you don't need to become somebody else. You don't. You just need to come back to yourself, who you are. And I can walk you through that step by step inside the masterclass that's coming. As of this recording, it is the Burnout Equation masterclass that is coming soon. All right. What if my job depends on me staying agreeable? Then you're already playing survival chess, my friend. You're not being nice. You're being strategic. So let's name it for what it is. There's a difference between calculated diplomacy and compulsive appeasing. Huge difference. One's a skill, the other is a trauma response. And the goal isn't to become defiant. It's just to become conscious in the moment, which is all any of us really want at the end of the day. Don't we say, I wish I'd said the thing in the moment? That's becoming conscious. That's when you can say the thing in the moment if you choose to. You don't have to. And you can choose not to, also in the moment. That's how we protect your paycheck, your life, your career, your relationships, your health, without abandoning your nervous system in the process. Your fox doesn't get fired. She gets smart and she learns how to navigate the storm before it hits so that she can maneuver out of its way. How do I know if I'm fawning or just being kind? You've got to track your after feelings. That's the only way to tell, because there's a cleanness to kindness, right? And kindness isn't fake niceness. People are worried other people won't think they're nice. See, that's self-centered and selfish. Your arrows are pointing inward and you care what people think about you, therefore you're nice to them. Kindness is actually doing stuff that's helpful to other people, right? And sometimes setting boundaries is kind. Sometimes saying no is kind, because sometimes someone's being a jerk and they need to be held accountable. Just like I would hope somebody holds you accountable if you're being a jerk, holds me accountable if I'm being a jerk. That's about the other person. That's about, I care about you. You're being a jerk. I want you to do better. You'll be happier. Same thing for me. I hope you would do the same for me, So kindness has a clean feeling. Fawning feels fake, like it's some other version of you. It's not the person you dream of. It's not the future self you want to meet. You already know that future self, and that's not it. So if you leave a moment feeling resentful, exhausted, depleted, anxious, or like you just gave away a piece of yourself, that wasn't kindness. It was camouflage. The difference isn't the action, it's the motivation. And if your motivation isn't correct, then it can really do a doozy on you. If you're unclear which one's driving you, it's time to learn how to decode your own nervous system. And that is what the burnout equation system will do for you. If you want to know when these classes are coming out, you need to be on my email list. That's /subscribe. So stop what you're doing. You can come back to me and go subscribe, because that is where all the jewels, the gems, and the online demand, instant access, everything. So mostly communicate with people through email. So you want to be on my email list. All right. Do you have questions about your own storm? Potential Cat 5 coming at you, Cat 1? Send it in. I read every single one of these. And you can do that at charliehornetscoaching.com/ask. All right. So, my friend, I need you to hear me right now. Okay. We're going to bring some fire. We're going to bring some preaching. Let's get some more emojis going in the comments. Let's show other people there's other foxes out there. You guys would be surprised how many there are if you will open your mouth and, drop the emoji instead of, lurking. But that's okay. I love you anyway. Look, your fox isn't a doormat. Your fox is a tactician, a shapeshifter, a fox who's mastered survival in a system that never wanted you to speak plainly. And that's where she came from. But now she's done faking it. She's done softening all the truth just to stay in rooms that absolutely exhaust her. Why do that? She doesn't need to be liked. She can become okay with just being her. She doesn't need to be liked. She needs to be whole. So she puts down the bat that she loves to beat herself over the head with. She drops the mask of accommodating. And for the first time in years, she actually breathes. No translation, no apology, just truth. All right. If you felt called out, seen, or low-key spiritually smacked around in the best possible way, then I hope that you will share this episode with the other fox or many in your life. And keep an eye out. You'd be surprised how many of you are out there if you really look. And don't forget to take the quiz if you don't know your archetype at charliehornetscoaching.com/quiz. When you take the quiz, also, you're going to get a free cheat sheet. And I've also created a personalized video just for you and your archetype. And there's a special offer in there if you stick around to find out, because it's pretty cool. But you only find out if you take the quiz. Anyway, survival isn't the goal anymore for you, my foxy friend. Self-trust is. Let's manage your brain like your life depended on it. And what are we doing next week? We are talking about the lion. Yes, my lion's den. I've heard from you guys. I can't wait to talk about lions and the fight survival instinct. All right, friend, I'll see you next week.